Hello everybody, it's me, Jeremy Senpai, and you are in for a major treat today because in this video I am sharing with you my top 25 favorite anime. Now let me set the record straight here everybody, these are my favorite anime. Some of them you've definitely heard of, a good number of them you probably haven't. I'm not saying which one is the best overall, because let's be honest here, there are too many. I'm just sharing the ones that I enjoy, the ones that I still love today, and I hope that you do as well. Maybe I shared something you know about, something you've never heard of, something you've been meaning to watch, whatever. But regardless, these are my favorite anime. And if you have a favorite anime of your own, feel free to share it in the comments below. I would love to know what you think of these shows, if I missed one, if you've heard of any of the ones I talk about, and you probably have or haven't. But either way, this is the top 25 favorite anime series. Let's get started, everybody. Number 25. Eden of the East. 12 citizens are given a small fortune and given one order: to make their country a better place. There are no rules in how they choose to spend this money as long as it's for what they consider to be the greater good. I really love this show, and especially the two movies that come out with it. I think it's pretty underrated, especially since it does delve a little bit into the social standing and politics of Japanese culture. And yes, just like so many of you, I am waiting for the third movie to come out. And at the same time, it's also a bit of an underrated love story too between our two leads, Akira and Saki. As they're going through all this craziness, they start to naturally grow closer together. Basically, if you want a little bit of secrecy and a little bit of an underrated romance with a little sprinkle of secrecy and conspiracies behind it, then this is the one for you. Number 24. Assassination Classroom. A classroom consisting of misfits that the school system has given up on are taken in by the most unlikely of teachers, this thing that they call Koro-sensei, who despite his looks is probably the greatest teacher that they've ever had, but they're also given a second job, that they need to kill their teacher before their graduation date. This really does peel back the layers when it comes to the flaws of the school system, especially for those who do put forth the effort and end up on the bottom of the list. It's not that they're bad kids or anything like that, it's just sometimes the system just fails them, just fails real-life students, and this is relatable, especially for students who are known to struggle, only come out in the bottom. I've been there, a good number of people have been there. Anyway, it is satisfying. This is definitely a great underdog story in of its own right. You will not be disappointed with Assassination Classroom. Number 23. Lupin III. Is it really a surprise that this anime from the 70s has survived to modern time? I mean, there are dozens of shows, movies, different adaptations, all based around our favorite gentleman thief Arsène Lupin III, taking inspiration from the French novels done by Maurice Leblanc. Our story follows Lupin and his gang of thieves as they commit heinous crimes all throughout the world, with the ever-devoted Inspector Zenigata fresh on their tail. What I really love about Lupin III is that you can get into any of the series, parts 1 through 5, any of the movies at all, even the crossover with Detective Conan, and it all feels natural. You can literally get into Lupin III no matter what series you get into. And it does help that you learn a little something too. This right here is the classic Cops and Robbers, having a whole bunch of great master thieves steal priceless works of art, some real, some fictitious, and the police getting close to capturing them only to fall short. That's why Lupin III will always be a timeless classic. Number 22. School Rumble. following a colorful cast of students as they go through the daily life that comes with high school, such as confessions, sports, etc., etc., and all sorts of crazy comedic hijinks. This was actually my very first school life, slice of life romantic comedy anime, and boy oh boy did it deliver. And what really stands out to me is the fact that they have the right balance of comedy and drama, to the point that it feels like almost every character is well fleshed out. Not just the main characters or the minor characters, but also the side and the background characters too. Almost everyone in this gets justice, and in the end is definitely worth it. It's funny, it's romantic, it might even make you cry a little bit. This is School Rumble. Number 21. Toradora. This was the second romantic comedy that I got into right after School Rumble, so it's the only thing that makes the 21st spot. Again, this really does flesh out the cast of characters. They feel relatable, they feel flawed, you feel for them, you relate to them in a way, and it really does show in the great writing. As for the story overall, it's kind of lackluster. It is the characters that sell this show. Now, basically, our two leads, the tiger and the dragon, are in love with the other's best friend, but going through the series, they start to realize that the person that they've been vying for may actually be the person at their side. The tiger and the dragon, that's just how it is. This is Toradora, and let me tell you, this is one hurricane of a feels trip. Number 20. Fruits Basket. This was actually the very first manga I ever read when I was only 6 years old. The story follows Toru Honda, a kind and compassionate girl who befriends the members of the Soma family, who are able to transform into members of the Chinese zodiac when they're hugged by somebody of the opposite gender. It's definitely a loving and compassionate story, where every character is given a tragic backstory that makes you sympathize with them. It's not hard to see why this is a timeless classic, so much so that it was given a reboot over a decade and a half later. Now, which one I may prefer, the original or the reboot? I think it's actually the reboot. I do love the original because of its animation at the time, but I'd be lying if I said that the reboot, because it does continue and finish the story, really does hold a place in my heart. Number 19. The Disastrous Life of Psyche K. Kuso Psyche, a normal high school teenager, except he has superpowers, and probably every superpower you could imagine. Only thing, nobody knows about it outside his family. This story basically follows him, following the craziness that comes from his family, his friends, and him using his psychic powers to basically deal with these mundane annoyances to his so-called normal life. This is definitely a standout show in its own right, following the crazy antics of Psyche K's world, as he just tries to get through life, all the while keeping up that amazing monotone poker face he has. The Disastrous Life of Psyche K. I dare you not to laugh at this series. Number 18. Full Mel Panic series. This one is definitely a classic. Taking place by the early 2000s, this story follows Sosuke Sagara, a teenage soldier for hire, who's tasked with protecting a normal girl, Kaname Chidori. And let me tell you, between the action, the comedy, the mecha battles, even a little bit of romance, it is hard not to enjoy this. So much so that this has spawned 3 sequel series, and just like you guys, I am hopeful for the future, where we finally get to see the anime adaptation of it ending. And this show really does have everything, and there's a reason why over a decade later they came out with the 4th season, so I am hopeful for a 5th season to wrap it all up. Fullmetal Panic is definitely an underrated gem, and I suggest you give it a watch. Number 17. Yuri on Ice. By far my favorite sports anime. It is hard not to enjoy this. Even though it only originally lasted 13 episodes, the opening, the closing, their labeled characters, it is hard not to enjoy it. It just makes you want to get out there and try your luck at figure skating yourself. Or at the very least watch these guys try their best at it. About the prodigy named Yuri, who's basically taken in by his idol Viktor Nikiforov in order to try and win the Grand Prix in skating. Like I said, this is a wonderful series, and I would love to see more from it. Between lovable characters and so much more, especially when it's so relatable for all you would-be dreamers out there. Yuri on Ice is a spectacular show, and I definitely say that you give it a try. Number 15. Baka and Test. Definitely a comedic rom-com that I suggest that you check it out. Taking place in a high school setting like so many others, Anoji Academy is the kind of school where your grades really do matter. If you do well and are considered the top, then you make it into Class A, where you have all the accommodations possible. But if you're an idiot and you do not meet the requirements, you end up in Class F. Now, where you definitely do not get by well. But it's also very endearing and full-hearted, and has too many comedic moments to count. I definitely suggest giving Baka and Test a try, especially if you're an aspiring student. I especially loved watching this in my high school years, and I did also during my early years of college. And now I can look back fondly at my school years because of this show. Baka and Test, the ideal show for the aspiring wannabe student. Number 16. Mare. This is by far a forgotten and underrated series, and I, for the life of me, don't know how. In fact, I'm willing to bet you've never even heard of it until now. Starring Ginta Torimizu, a 14-year-old brought here from another world. Yeah, just like so many others, he and his friends have to use the magical arm in order to stop the chess pieces and the chess knight Phantom from conquering the said world of Mare Heaven. It's comedic, it's actiony, it's dramatic, and it is definitely a forgotten gem that I think deserves its justice. Even though I myself haven't seen this show in many, many years, I will look for any excuse in the world to praise the heck out of it. And it's actually one of the few anime series that follow the manga all the way to a conclusion. So there's that too. Definitely an underrated isekai. Mare or Marchen Awakens Romance is definitely worth some digging. Number 14. Dr. Stone. By far my most rewatched series of 2019. After every human in the world is turned to a stone statue, and nature has slowly taken back everything that was modern. 3,700 years later, scientist prodigy Senku and his friends have to slowly take back what was once theirs, using scientific innovations from what nature has provided, instead of what's modern and what we're used to. What's amazing about this series is how Senku can make anything from literally anything. Cola, a generator, a dam, glass, everything you can imagine he makes. If you definitely want a series that will have you thinking and for all the right reasons, give Dr. Stone a try. Number 13. Oron High School Host Club. Taking place at the prestigious Oron Academy, newcomer commoner student Haruhi Fujioka has to repay an immeasurable debt to the aforementioned entitled host club, whose job is to basically entertain students with way too much time on their hands. The only problem here is that Haruhi is a girl, even though she has no problems coming across as a boy in order to address said debt and everything else. It's lovable, it's comedic, it is a timeless classic that in my opinion is overdue for a continuation of the original series. Oron High School Host Club. It is hard not to fall in love with this classic series. Number 12. Soul Eater. A sound soul dwells within a sound mind and a sound body. This is definitely a real classic favorite, taking place in a gothic-inspired world where witches and demons do exist. Now, there are also people who can reap souls and protect the world from evil. These are the students of the Death Weapon Meister Academy, a school owned and founded by Lord Death the Grim Reaper himself. I know the show didn't exactly end on a good note, and I would love to see a reboot or a continuation. But still, you cannot get over the amazing effects, the drag-out action, and the likable, relatable characters. Soul Eater, continuation, or reboot will always be a mainstay for the anime community. Number 11. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. There is no otaku who has not heard of this phenomenal series. Taking place in a world where instead of gadgets, the main scientific application is the world of alchemy, the study of understanding the construction and deconstruction of matter. There's not a lot I can say about this show you have not heard already. It is a gateway favorite for a lot of otaku, and it is not hard to see why. But if I had to choose between Brotherhood and the original, I would definitely choose Brotherhood. The original, in my opinion, had a bit of a somber ending, which I don't really like, but I do like watching it every once in a while, especially for the animation style at the time. I would definitely recommend you watch both series when you have a chance. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. I dare you not to like this show if you call yourself an otaku at all. Number 10. Dragon Ball. Out of all four of the main series, I had to stick with the original Dragon Ball series. And how can I not? The Dragon Ball series is a staple for any aspiring otaku. I dare anybody who's even not an otaku or an anime fan to have not heard of this phenomenal series. But the original Dragon Ball series will always have a special place in my heart. Super, I'm not crazy about. Z will always be amazing, and GT, I don't know, I like it, it's not phenomenal, but I decided to go with the original Dragon Ball since this is what turned me onto it, and I still rewatch it the most. It's hard not to enjoy this series, and I dare anybody not to praise the heck out of it. Number 9. The Baki series. If one is born as a male, at least once in his life, he'll dream of becoming the strongest man alive. That is the main plot of this series. For martial art enthusiasts, for aspiring athletes, or just somebody who loves drag-out action screaming, this is the show for you. And it really does say a lot when, over a decade later, after the original show's airing, Netflix adapts a continuation. I will always love the Baki series, and I will always look for an excuse to praise it for somebody. In fact, there's actually an interesting story how I even got into this series, but that's for another time. If you haven't heard of this show, of this great show, then I aspire you to check it out for yourself. You will not be disappointed, especially if you yourself love action, love working out, love martial arts. This is the show for you. Baki the Grappler. Number 8. Sailor Moon. Fighting evil by moonlight, winning love by daylight. Very much like Dragon Ball before it, I dare anybody not to have heard of this amazing series. Following the exploits of normal teenage girl Usagi Tsukino, who, unknown to the public, is the Sailor Guardian Sailor Moon, fighting evil alongside her best friends and her boyfriend Tuxedo Mask. I dare anybody not to have heard or been influenced by this show growing up, and I've become especially a great fan of it in my teenage years. Now, when it comes to the original show versus the reboot Crystal, I admit, Crystal has an amazing coat of paint when it comes to the animation, but I'll always have a soft spot when it comes to the original, because, well, Crystal hasn't finished the original story, and it's hard not to enjoy the show that we all grew up with, Sailor Moon. In the name of the moon, I will punish you if you don't enjoy the show. Number 7. Ronin Kenshin, or sometimes referred to as Samurai X. This is another childhood favorite of mine, and I personally feel is well overdue for a reboot, one where it ends the show properly. Following the themes such as atonement, peace, and romance, taking place in the 11th year of the Meiji period of Japan, or 1878, following Kenshin Himura, a veteran assassin from the war that was prior, trying to seek atonement for the crimes he committed by devoting himself to peace. And it's also a very nice alternate history piece for those of you who love Japanese culture and history. I dare anybody not to fall in love with the beautiful art style of the period, the relatable, flawed character found in Kenshin and other characters like him, and the action is beyond amazing, especially for the animation style of the late 90s. Rurouni Kenshin. This is a samurai love story everybody will fall in love with. Number 6. Ranma 1/2. The martial arts action, the romance, the drag-out comedy. Following the exploits of Ranma Saotome, his fiancée Akane, and their friends. Thanks to the myth of the legendary Jusenkyo Springs, whoever falls in said spring will become whatever drowned in that spring. In Ranma's case, it was a beautiful redhead girl, so every time Ranma is doused in cold water, he'll become said beautiful redhead girl. And the only way to break the curse is for him to be doused in hot water, which only leads to more comedic shenanigans. This will always be a beloved classic, and it is not hard to see why. There is something that appeals to everybody, whether it's the relatable, flawed characters, the progressive romance between Ranma, Akane, or other characters, or just the cool martial arts action. Ranma 1/2 will always be a timeless classic. Number 5. Mobile Fighter G Gundam. I knew I had to include a Gundam series on this list, but I was in a three-way tie between this, Iron Blood Orphans, and Gundam Wing, but ultimately I decided to go with the one that I was introduced to and the one I still love today. With Earth abandoned and humanity living mostly out in space as colonies, every 4 years, in order to avoid intergalactic war, each colony sends one representative to represent their nation in the Gundam fight. And they fight, and continue fighting until only one wins. And whoever wins that represents that colony will rule the colonies for the next 4 years until the next Gundam battle begins. Between the likable characters, the amazing animation and action for the mid-90s, I dare anybody not to think of this as a trademark interpretation to the Gundam franchise. Number 4. Yu Hakusho, yet another timeless classic from the golden age of Toonami. Following the adventures of 14-year-old Yusuke Urameshi, he awoke as a ghost after giving his life to save a child, and after undergoing a trial in order to win back his life, he then works for the spirit world as a spirit detective, battling monsters and demons in order to protect the Earth alongside his best friends. There is so much to love about this show, and I would dare say it even measures up over newer series like My Hero Academia and Black Clover. And if you don't know why I'm praising it over them, I suggest you watch it for yourself. Yu Hakusho needs no reboot, it needs no other adaptation. It is perfect the way it is, and I will always stand by that, even today. Number 3. Detective Conan, or Case Closed as it was called in the West. Over 20 years, over 20 movies, over 1,000 episodes has culminated into this trademark of anime, and it is not hard to see why. It has mystery, action, romance. Every episode leaves you on the edge of your seat as we try to figure out the case as much as our pint-sized hero Conan Ogawa. And like so many of you, I'm looking forward to the day where this mystery is finally solved. But let's just hope it's not too soon, especially since, like the creator himself, Aoyama-san, we're enjoying watching it every step of the way. Detective Conan may seem like an arduous watch, especially with over over 1,000 episodes, but I definitely suggest that you give it a watch. There's something for everybody when it comes to this series, and it's not hard to see why. Number 2. Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. I'm gonna be honest here, this may be a little controversial, but I like almost every series. I'm not gonna rank them right here, but the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series is as synonymous as the Pokemon series when it comes to anime lovers. And while the dub is good, is what we grew up with, I think I'll stick with the original subs. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a great series. It's a great continuation, especially for those of you who are purists, who still collect the cards, very much like me, but I think I will stick with the original Japanese. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a show I still very much watch today, whether it's Duel Monsters, GX, 5Ds, Zeal, Arc 5, Vrains, or 7s, or whatever the 8th series will be. Yu-Gi-Oh! Will still very much be around for a long time to come. Its legacy speaks for itself. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is beloved, and as they say, it's your move, everybody. Don't be afraid to love it as much as we all do. Number 1. One Piece. This is a juggernaut of an anime. Over 1,000 chapters, over 1,000 episodes. Everybody adores One Piece. It may seem a little intimidating, but it is very much worth it to get into it. Taking place during the great age of piracy, with so many people wanting to be the next king of the pirates. Following Monkey D. Luffy and his colorful crew of Straw Hat Pirates. It is not hard to love this series. Almost every character is likable, even the bad guys. People very much adoring this series, and with so many newcomers to the show, it is not hard, it is not a mystery to see why One Piece will always be a trademark to the anime community, as much as Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, Pokemon, Naruto, and so many others. One Piece will always be my number 1 anime. I pretty much cannot go a day without watching it or watching people talk about it. One Piece is my beloved favorite anime, and I hope that so many of you adore it too. It doesn't have to be your number 1 favorite, but it is mine. One Piece, everybody. It is truly amazing. So, what did you think, everybody? Feel free to share your favorite anime in the comments below. If you have a top 10 or top 25 favorite anime series, feel free to tell me below. I would love to know your opinion. And just so you know, guys, I'll be doing this monthly. I'll be doing a top 25 list effectively every month. And this was definitely a big project. This is the longest video I've worked on so far. Some might even run a little bit longer. But regardless, join me next month in June, everyone, because we'll be in store for another top 25 episodes. Top 25 whatever, because I genuinely think that you guys will love this next one. But regardless, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. This is Jeremy Senpai signing off, everyone. Until next time.